Is it cool to be black?
Where I get all my looks from, nigga? Silky ass, sexy hair. Damn, black don't crack. That's why I'm 17 and look 12.
Okay, what is up guys? I'm filming a commentary video. Today I'm going to be deep diving into the movie Mid-90s because that is my current hyper fixation right now. If you're new, subscribe, like this video, comment, check out my other videos if you haven't already. Check out my socials, everything's linked down below. Check out my podcast, it's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. This movie, I feel, explores self-identity, nostalgia, skating culture, trauma, and the importance of communities. You probably think this is just a regular smegular skating movie, but I feel like there's just so much more to that if you really like dig deep to it. And I know that I'm very late to the hype, but it was probably for the best, honestly, because if I watched this when it came out when I was 18, I would have been like, oh my god, this is kind of weird, I don't like it. And there are some weird parts, I will say that, but not the whole movie is weird. Be enough for me to really like deep dive into it at 18 versus how like what age I'm at right now. I feel like this film personally makes us understand what it's like to be in the skating culture back in the 90s in LA, and I feel like Jonah Hill did a really good job on that, especially when it came to like the aesthetic itself and how it looked. Game Boys and all that stuff like that really put it all together, you know. The movie follows a 13-year-old boy named Stevie who is living in Los Angeles, and he's like trying to figure out what to do and trying to navigate his troubled home life. And so he was just trying to like I think this was when he was like on summer break, so obviously there was like a lot of kids out and stuff like that. The movie starts off with Ian, who is Stevie's older brother. I don't know why I'm so nervous. Like I've done like TV show analysis and all that stuff, but for some reason I'm like nervous about this one, and I don't know why. Like I feel like I just needed to get that off my chest, and that's probably why I keep stumbling a lot, because like I'm nervous for some reason, even though like I've done stuff like this before. So Ian is his older brother, and it starts off with him beating him up, which he did like a couple times throughout the movie. And you're probably thinking like, oh, that's just what brothers do and that's what boys do, but if you like dig deep into their relationship, you realize how complicated it is, because I just feel like it was just more than just boy stuff, because just the way that he did it, and like I felt like it was kind of like a power dynamic. I'm gonna dig deep into their characters a little bit later in this video, but I just feel like it's just an honorable mention because I didn't really like Ian at first, just because I felt like he just liked picking on him a lot and was taking his anger out on him, and I just didn't like fuck with that, you know. We learn about their strained relationship throughout the movie, even though Stevie was constantly looking for some sort of like parental guidance throughout the movie, and you can tell in the beginning of the movie he really truly looked up to Ian. I think that's what you do as a kid, like you just like to look up to people, to learn from them, like it's a normal thing to do. And I like that he mentioned that, he as in Jonah Hill mentioned that, because that stuff is just really normal about development. Like growing up, you just want to look up to people. I always ask you that in school, like who do you look up to, and they'll make you do like little assignments about it and stuff. That's what I truthfully remember, but I don't know about y'all. But he looked up to him in so many ways, like his style, his music, everything. And he would sneak into his room just to like look into, just to learn more about him, I feel, because I don't feel like they really talk on a deeper level like that. But so he just through his room to see what he's really like. Learn about his mom, well their mom, Dabney, who is a single mom and who I feel is super duper male-centered. She talks about her dating life between to Ian and Stevie a lot throughout the movie, and I feel like she treats them like they're like best friends instead of like mother and son relationship, which I don't really like, because like the way that she dates is not like casual, it's like more like casual, and they definitely see her dating because she will bring her little flings to the house a lot. So, and you see that. So since Stevie is tired of his troubled home life, he finds himself at a skate shop where he finds older skaters that he ends up befriending later on in the movie. And when it comes to like the group, their humor is very off-putting and very vulgar, but you have to realize, like, as a teenager, a lot of teenagers are very vulgar and have a lot of perverted humor, and that's kind of what was happening throughout the movie, you know what I mean? So we get introduced to the people in the group, and first it's Olin, and I know it's not really Olin in the movie, but we're gonna say Olin because, like, I don't want to get in trouble by the YouTube gods, so I'm just gonna say Olin, okay? Olin, I feel, is the most outgoing one in the group. He's more like witty and kind of like the one that's like always looking for functions. He's like the one that you just kind of hang out with for fun and not for anything else. He's also very dismissive, and he takes life one day at a time. He sees skateboarding as like a hobby and not for something for a way out of the hood. Because like he had options is what he said, and so he's not really like heavily relying on skateboarding for him to get anywhere in life. So with Ray, he's more of like, I feel, as the leader of the group. He's the more mature one, and he wants to be someone when he grows up, and he wants to be like more like, he wants to take tours, skateboarding tours, which I don't really understand what that is, but you know, I'm learning as I go. And then with Ruben, we don't really know much about Ruben, to be honest with you, but he is the one that brought Stevie into the group, and I do feel like he's kind of overlooked along with fourth grade. And I don't know, I've watched it like 50 billion times before it was taken off with Tubi, and with Ruben, I feel like he had a lot of resentment with Stevie, because he immediately, the second that they started hanging out with the group, well, he started hanging out with the group, he immediately got like a little nickname. And Ruben has been in the group for how many months or years, and he never got a little like nickname. So I personally feel like that's when the resentment started, when he got a nickname from the group. So fourth grade, he's quiet but is really willing to learn, and he lets his camera work do all the talking for him. He wanted to be a director, but everyone like constantly dismisses his dreams, and they feel like he is just not good enough to be a director or anything that has to do with movies, because he's the quiet one. So they're like, oh, why aren't you talking in the movies? If you want to make movies, why aren't you talking in them? And I'm just like, okay, like, you can also be the director. You don't have to talk in the movies if you want to make a movie. Like, I don't know, I just feel like it was kind of annoying. I felt like Stevie fit into the group perfectly, because I felt like he was kind of like treated as like the little brother that they take care of and they bring everywhere, because like he was literally learning a lot through them throughout this whole movie. He started off as this like innocent, kind of like insecure boy. Innocent because he didn't really like experience the things that they've experienced, because when you see them, they're smoking, partying, drinking, all that stuff, and he never did any of those things until he got with them. So he's like, oh my god, this is exciting, oh my god, I never lived like this, and this was kind of like thrilling for him. And that is stuff that is normal as a teenager, like especially even in your early 20s. Those thrill seeking behaviors is very normal, because like a lot of people just like the adrenaline of what trouble brings. Also started like experimenting with rugs and drinking, and that's something that's kind of normalized in American teenage culture. I feel the second you turn 13, you need to start experimenting with all these things. And I've also grown up in California the majority of my life, and I didn't start smoking until I was 17 years old, so I was very like much a late bloomer. Like, I was constantly around people that were smoking all the time and drinking and all that stuff, even at school, but I just couldn't find the appeal of drinking and smoking. Like, I've drank before, like when I was like 13, but it was like mostly wines. It wasn't like hard stuff like in this movie. Like, it was like liquor, like they were drinking like liquor or something, and I just wasn't that type of person. Like, I started drinking liquor when I was in my 20s. I'm still in my 20s, but that's just how it was. Like, I feel like some people like that stuff, but since I just didn't really find the appeal of it, I just was like, well, when it's my time to try these things. Eating with his friends, there's like this part that I feel like is an honorable mention, and when he got into it with Ian, as in Olin. Olin got into it with Ian because he accidentally bumped him while they were like out skateboarding. He apologized, but then I don't know what it was. I think Ian was more fixated on the fact that now he knows who he's hanging out with, and he's like, okay, like, why are you hanging out with them? They're so much older and they don't seem like your type of crowd. So like, why would you hang out with them? You know what I mean? So he was like looking at him like the most intense eye contact ever, and he didn't say anything, but they were just staring at each other. And I feel like that scene is overlooked, but I feel like personally that is a time where, what's it called, Stevie stopped like looking up to him as a person, because Olin was kind of like instigating this fight that never happened, so he was kind of like messing with him a lot. And then since he never beat him up, like he kind of saw him as like, oh, like you're not as tough as you portray yourself to be. And I do feel like he has this like facade a lot, and I think I thought it was weird the first time I watched it, like why is he okay with beating up his brother, but if the situation strikes with someone else, like you don't take it, you know what I mean? I thought that was a little bit weird.
Yo, back. What's up, nigga? What the fuck? You good? I think he might have shit himself.
Whenever Ian sat him down and they were talking about, like, he was talking about his concerns with him being around those people, he said that like his mom used to smoke too. Well, their mom used to smoke, because he noticed that he was starting to smoke cigarettes as well. Telling him how things were a lot different for him when he was growing up versus how Stevie grew up. Like when Stevie was born, Dabney was really present in his life, and then whenever Ian was born, Dabney was not present in his life. So she focused more on dating versus raising him. So he had all this built up resentment against Stevie because of that, because he felt like they have like a really close bond with each other, and he never got to experience that with her because she was so focused on chasing dick instead of raising her kid, you know what I mean? And also she was a teen mom. I do want to mention that she did mention that she was a teen mom, and not saying that it's okay to do that, but I do feel like there's so many things to uncover when it comes to this movie. Like I kind of wish that it was a show versus a movie, because I feel like we would get to like understand their characters a lot more, and I feel like it's just a really good conversation opener. But maybe it's meant to be a movie, but I feel like a lot more people would enjoy it if it was a show. Basically worried that Stevie was going down the wrong path, and he kind of was, and it kind of happened like rapidly, if you notice that, because he started out one way and then he ended up being like a totally different person, and it wasn't like for the best. Like it was cool that he was experimenting with things, but it ended up being really destructive towards the end of the movie, you know what I mean? So another honorable mention that I want to talk about, so something that I don't feel like people talk about, is when Ray and them were hanging out. Ray mentions that when they get in trouble for vandalizing or just hang around like properties that they're not supposed to be in, like whenever they're trespassing is what I'm trying to say, he feels like the punishment is heavier on him because he's the only black member of the group. And I feel like that's overlooked, because like obviously they're not gonna understand. Like Olin, he is a like white passing, I feel he's like biracial technically. Security guard thought he was like Samoan or whatever, and like I feel like he's white passing. Like he looks like a little white kid, which there's nothing wrong with that, because sometimes when you are biracial and you're mixed with black and white, sometimes the white gene is more dominant than the black gene, even though the majority of the time scientifically the black gene is more dominant than white genes. But a lot of the times there are times where the white gene takes over. And you know, I'm trying to think of it like in a nerdy way, because I do like talking about that type of stuff, but like I don't know, you have to do Punnett squares for all that stuff, but he is one of those people. So I do understand where he's coming from when it comes to that, because I feel like he does get a lot of the blame when they do get in trouble. The night after the party, Stevie comes home extremely intoxicated, and Ian overhears him in the living room, and he was yelling at him, and he was saying like, you're messing up a lot, like what are you doing? And then Stevie was super duper intoxicated, so he ended up saying like what he really felt about him. And he's like, you're a pathetic loser, you don't get any women, you just stay around, like you don't do anything. And then he ended up beating him up and stuff like that. And then it pans to Stevie trying to like SH himself, which, another thing to mention, he does have self-harming behaviors in the movie. Like in the beginning, when Ian was asking him to take money from Dabney, he was like rubbing himself with the hairbrush on his leg. And I was trying to figure out what that meant, but online said it's because he was trying to like make himself either feel tougher or he was trying to hurt himself. So he does kind of have like this theme where he likes to like hurt himself throughout the movie, and I feel kind of it's overlooked a lot of the times, but what can I say? I don't know. Ended up doing that, and then the next day his mom gets into it because she finds out that he's hanging out with these really questionable people. They go to the skate shop, and then she's like, oh, you're not going to see these people anymore, this, that, and the third. And then he starts like cussing her out in the car. And I feel like what the issue was in this situation was that she was seeing him as like this destructive little boy. When we were together all the time, you were like this fun little, like you were opening up and all these things. And then the second that he started hanging out with those boys, he started closing off, he started drinking, smoking, all these destructive things, peeing outside all the time. Like those are very destructive behaviors that was very much noted in the movie, you know what I mean? Because I feel like it was wildly concerning how fast he took on to that. But yeah, so she was like, okay, you're not innocent anymore, you're like kind of turning into this really self-destructive person. And she was worried, but he was just like, you're embarrassing me, I don't understand why you care, and stuff like that. So yeah. Then another thing after that whole situation, Stevie and Ray had this whole like sit down talk about the whole situation, and I do feel like this was a very good thing to bring up also. I keep saying that, but it's the truth. Like I feel like this situation made Ray and Stevie a lot closer. He was always the one that spit like a lot of like life advice and stuff like that, and was always trying to keep everyone in check. And he was also the one that was like splitting up conflicts within the group, which did happen a lot in the movie. And yeah, so I feel like he was a good fit with them, and I feel like after they had their talk, they got a lot closer. So basically he was saying like, you wouldn't want to trade your shit for their shit, and you should be more grateful about, you know, what you have, because the people in the group were not as like, they were going through their own shit that were a lot worse than what he was going through. I mean, I think the situation that he's going through is pretty bad too. I don't think he should downplay it, but basically I think he was trying to say, without saying, that when you're a teenager, everything feels like it's the end of the world after every little conflict you have with anyone, and so you just want to like stay in your room and start spiraling. But then he was like, wait, like it's really not that big of a deal, like take a few steps back, like it's not that bad, you know. And he was saying how 4th grade was like living in poverty, and then Ruben was living in an abusive household, and then Olin was like this type of person that he was very close to in the beginning, but he started kind of spiraling himself because he constantly was drinking and stuff. I feel like he was a borderline alcoholic in the movie. And so yeah, but they used to have like sleepovers and all these things. And when he was upset about situations, he would come to his house and he'll be like, oh, do you want to skate? And they'll skate it out. He talked about how he lost his brother when he was leaving a soccer game, and he got like hit by a car, and he was like super depressed from it. And then Olin came over and he's like, oh, do you want to skate? And then that's how it happened. But yeah, even when they were on the bus earlier in that movie, like, I do feel like Ray was more like a father figure that the people probably needed, the younger ones probably needed, because he was kind of like noticing that like Owen was kind of in this self-destructive behavior that he didn't want the other two to have, because he was giving him like ADHD meds. And of course Stevie took it because he wants to keep up with them, but he was like, why are you giving it to them? Like, why? What is the point of this? And he was kind of like trying to play it off. But I just feel like Olin was like collateral damage, because he was the one that was like, that led them into that car accident. He's the one that was constantly looking for like functions and stuff like that. Like, he was the one that was getting him into drinking. It was just a lot of things that I did not agree with personally that he was doing. And I think that Ray was like kind of showing subtle signs that he was getting frustrated with him, because I mean, he isn't the best character. I mean, he's a good character, but like when it comes to him being a friend, he wasn't really that good of a person. So I do feel like there were some areas to work on for him. I do feel like, honestly, I like how complex Stevie's character is, and he shows like what it's like for most teens on what it's like growing up. It doesn't matter like where you are, but it's as realistic as it can get personally. And he ended up being a kid that was searching for a place to belong, and he ended up finding a community, and he got himself killed so many times in the movie, but he ended up like working through that rut. But I do feel like in the end, it shows how important it is to have people by your side. And after the car accident, Ian was like super duper nice to him for once, and which I feel is very important too, because I do feel like he puts a lot on him, and it's not his fault for him being really close to his mom, and that his mom was more present in his life when he was born, because I do feel like he had a lot of jealousy towards him, and he just took it out on him. And I just am like, why don't you just go to therapy for that, or just address it with her? Because like, I don't feel like that was fair. And he was constantly bringing up how he was tired of his ish all the time, and he just would like kind of dismiss it, you know. I do feel like they show up a lot for him in the movie, and even when they had conflicts, they still showed up for Stevie. And I feel like that's growth, personally, because that's something that a lot of people can't do today. But I'm gonna end the video here. I'm probably gonna film another video because I'm on this roll right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, because I definitely enjoyed it myself. If you guys want more of these, I would love to know. I really don't know what direction my channel is going, but I just know that I like yapping a lot. So yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my other videos if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next week with another video. Bye guys.